One of money's cruel little jokes is that wealth is easiest to fake when it is being destroyed. A person buys the expensive car, the huge house, the luxury watch, the vacation that requires 12 photos and a small emotional press conference, and everyone sees the spending. What they do not see is the bank account after the spending. They see the object. They do not see the trade-off. Welcome back. In this part of the psychology of money, Morgan Housel turns from compounding and freedom to status, invisible wealth, saving, and the difference between being rational on paper and reasonable in real life. Chapter 8, Man in the Car Paradox, begins with a social illusion. People often buy expensive things because they want admiration. But when you see someone driving an impressive car, you usually do not think, wow, the driver is amazing. You think, wow, that car is amazing. The admiration attaches to the object, not the person. This is almost funny and then a little tragic. People spend large amounts of money trying to signal something about themselves, but the audience may be too busy imagining themselves and the object to admire the owner. The owner wants respect. The viewer wants the car. The emotional transaction fails quietly. Housel's point is not that nice things are immoral. The point is to understand what they can and cannot do. If a purchase genuinely improved your life, fine. If it is mainly an attempt to make people admire you, the return may be disappointing. Status spending is expensive because the hunger behind it is rarely satisfied for long. This connects directly to Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. Real wealth is hidden because it is the money not spent. Wealth is the car not upgraded, the house not stretched for, the income not fully consumed, the option preserved, the asset quietly compounding. But hidden wealth does not clap for itself. This creates a measurement problem. We judge wealth by visible consumption, even though visible consumption often reduces wealth. If someone spends a large amount of money, we can see the result. If someone saves and invests, there may be nothing to see. Their wealth is invisible because it remains potential. Housel draws a useful distinction between being rich and being wealthy. Rich can mean high current income or visible spending. Wealthy means having assets, options, and unspent resources. Rich is what you can show. Wealth is what can protect you when nobody is watching. That distinction is especially important in a culture that confuses lifestyle with success. A high-income person can be financially fragile if every dollar is assigned to debt, consumption, and status. A modest-income person can be surprisingly resilient if they save, invest, and keep expectations under control. The practical lesson is to be careful who you envy. You may see a lifestyle, but not the liabilities. You may see the vacation, but not the stress. You may see the car, but not the monthly payment. Envy is often built from incomplete accounting. Chapter 10, Save Money, makes one of Housel's simplest and strongest arguments. Building wealth has a lot to do with your savings rate. Income matters. Investment returns matter. But the gap between ego and income may matter even more. If your wants grow as fast as your income, wealth has nowhere to form. Saving is often discussed as if it requires a specific goal: a house, a car, college, retirement, an emergency fund. Those goals are real. But Housel argues that saving without a specific purpose is also powerful because life is unpredictable. The future will deliver opportunities and problems you cannot name today. Money saved for no specific reason becomes flexibility for every reason. This is one of the book's most practical ideas. You do not need to know exactly what future you are saving for in order for saving to be useful. The unknown is the reason. A job loss, a health issue, a career pivot, a family need, a market crash, a chance to start something new, or the simple desire to work less frantically can all appear without asking whether your budget had a category ready. Housel also connects saving with humility. The more you need external approval, the harder it is to save. If spending is used to prove worth, every dollar saved can feel like a misperformance. But if you can care less about what others think, your savings rate can rise because your ego has lower operating costs. That phrase is not in every budget app, but maybe it should be. Ego has operating costs. Keeping up appearances is expensive. Impressing people is expensive. Needing constant visible proof that you're doing well is expensive. Financial independence often begins when the need to impress becomes less demanding. The chapter does not pretend saving is equally easy for everyone. Some incomes leave little room. Some responsibilities are heavy. But the principle remains. Wealth is created by the gap between what comes in and what goes out, and that gap is shaped by both income and desire. Then Chapter 11, Reasonable, Rational, adds a mature correction. The best financial plan is not always the one that is mathematically optimal. It is the one you can stick with. Humans are not calculators. They have families, fears, identities, habits, and nights when the market is falling and every headline sounds like it was written by a panic attack with a keyboard. A purely rational strategy might say one thing. A reasonable strategy may include more cash than a spreadsheet prefers, a mortgage choice that helps someone sleep, or an investment allocation that reduces panic. If that reasonable choice helps a person stay the course, it can outperform a theoretically superior plan that they abandon under stress. This is a major theme in the book. Good financial advice must be behaviorally durable. A plan that ignores emotion is not sophisticated. It is incomplete. It is like designing a bridge for perfect weather and then acting offended when wind arrives. Housel's reasonable over rational idea also explains why personal finance is personal. Two people with the same income, age, and portfolio can need different plans because their temperaments differ. One person can tolerate volatility. Another cannot. One person is secure in their job. Another has unstable income. One person has family support. Another is the support. The job of a good plan is not to win an argument on a forum. It is to survive contact with your real life. Reasonable plans make space for psychology. They recognize that comfort, simplicity, and consistency have value. These chapters work together because they challenge the performance version of money. The visible object is not the same as admiration. Spending is not the same as wealth. Saving is not only for known goals. Rational optimization is not useful if it breaks the human being required to execute it. For viewers, the question becomes direct. How much of your spending is for use, and how much is for being seen? How much of your wealth is invisible because it is actually preserved? Is your plan optimized for a spreadsheet or for the person you become when fear, envy, or boredom shows up? There's also a deeper freedom in these chapters. When you stop needing every dollar to prove something, money becomes quieter and more useful. You can save without apology. You can own less visible status and more invisible control. You can make a plan that looks less impressive but works better. This does not mean living miserably. Housel is not asking readers to turn life into a punishment ritual where every coffee is treated as a moral failure. He is asking readers to know the difference between enjoyment and display. Enjoyment can be worth paying for. Display often sends the bill to your future self. The third part of the book, therefore, teaches financial modesty. Real wealth often looks like nothing. It looks like the purchase delayed, the option preserved, the ego quieted, the simple plan maintained, the cash cushion that lets you sleep, and the savings rate that makes your future less fragile. Thank you for watching this third part. Next, we move into uncertainty. Why history surprises us, why every plan needs room for error, why your future self will change, and why investing always charges a fee, even when the fee is emotional instead of printed on a statement. Final close. The wealth that matters most may be invisible to everyone else because it is not the thing you bought. It is the freedom you kept. The chapters on status and invisible wealth are especially useful because they expose a social accounting error. We are trained to read spending as evidence of wealth, but spending is evidence that wealth has been converted into something else. Sometimes that conversion is worthwhile. A safe home, useful transportation, a meaningful trip, or a tool that improves life can be a good exchange. But the visible thing is not the same as financial strength. This matters because humans copy what they can see. You cannot see someone's brokerage account, emergency fund, debt burden, or stress level. You can see the kitchen renovation. So the visible world becomes the model, even if the invisible reality is fragile. People imitate the display and accidentally imitate the pressure underneath it. Housel's distinction between rich and wealthy helps clean up the confusion. Rich is current cash flow. Wealthy is accumulated freedom. Rich can buy. Wealthy can wait. Rich can impress. Wealthy can absorb. Rich can be loud. Wealthy can be quiet enough that nobody knows what is there. Both can exist together, but they are not the same. The saving chapter then gives readers a lever they can control. Investment returns are uncertain. Promotions may or may not happen. Markets will not ask for your opinion before moving. But the gap between income and spending is more directly influenced by choices, expectations, and ego. That gap is where future freedom is built. Saving for no specific reason can feel strange because people like named goals. But unnamed savings may be the most realistic kind. The future rarely arrives as a labeled envelope. It arrives as a broken appliance, a parent needing help, an opportunity to move, a chance to study, a business idea, a layoff, a medical expense, or a desire to take a less stressful job. Flexibility is useful precisely because the need is unknown. There is also dignity in saving because it reduces dependence on prediction. You do not have to forecast every problem if you have enough buffer. You do not have to know which opportunity will appear if you have the liquidity to consider it. Savings are not idle. They're sleeping options. The reasonable over rational chapter is a necessary correction to finance culture. People often pretend that the best plan is the one with the highest expected value. But expected value means little if the plan creates so much discomfort that you abandon it. Behavior is part of the return. For example, holding a cash cushion may reduce theoretical returns. But if that cash prevents panic selling during a downturn, it may be one of the best investments in the plan. Paying down a mortgage early may not maximize returns compared with investing, but for some households, the psychological freedom is worth it. A simpler portfolio may look less sophisticated, but if it is easier to maintain, it may win. Housel is asking readers to respect the difference between a model and a life. A model can assume consistency. A life includes job stress, children, illness, aging parents, fear, boredom, temptation, and news alerts designed to make calm people twitch. A financial plan that ignores those conditions is not realistic. It is decorative math. These chapters also make the book more humane. Housel is not trying to shame people for liking nice things. He is trying to make the trade-off visible. If you know what a purchase costs in future freedom, and you still choose it because it brings real value, that is an honest choice. The trouble begins when spending is automatic, comparative, or driven by a hunger for admiration that the purchase cannot actually satisfy. The quiet message is that financial independence often requires social independence. Not total isolation, not arrogance, not pretending you do not care about anyone. It means enough independence from the crowd's approval that you can make boring, useful choices without feeling like you are falling behind. This section also explains why financial progress can feel socially lonely. If real wealth is what you do not see, then building it may look unimpressive. You may drive the older car, live in the smaller home, skip the performance purchase, or invest quietly while other people appear to be accelerating ahead. The scoreboard you are improving is mostly invisible. That is psychologically difficult because humans like social proof. We want evidence that our choices make sense. But invisible wealth requires trusting a private scoreboard. The emergency fund, the lower debt, the invested surplus, the flexible calendar, and the reduced anxiety may not impress strangers, but they are real. Housel's saving argument also makes clear that wealth is partly about managing desire. Increasing income helps, but if desire expands without limit, income alone cannot create independence. A person can always find a higher lifestyle to absorb the next raise. This is why enough from Part 1 returns here. Saving is much easier when enough has a definition. Reasonable planning then protects the whole structure from perfectionism. A plan does not need to impress the most aggressive investor you know. It needs to help you behave well repeatedly. Simplicity is underrated because it reduces the number of things that can go wrong, including the thing most likely to go wrong, the investor's own reaction. The viewer-facing lesson is not to become cheap. It is to become deliberate. Spend on what genuinely matters. Cut what exists mainly for comparison. Save for the unknown. Choose plans that you can live with during stress. The result may look quieter from the outside, but it can feel much richer from the inside. There is a subtle confidence that comes from invisible wealth. It is not the loud confidence of showing people what you bought. It is the quiet confidence of knowing you have choices. You can handle a delay, absorb an inconvenience, help someone you love, or wait for a better opportunity. That confidence does not need an audience. This is why the chapter on saving belongs next to the chapter on status. Status asks money to speak to other people. Saving asks money to speak to your future self. One is immediate and visible. The other is delayed and private. Housel's argument is that the private conversation may be the one that changes your life.